Good morning. This is Damien J. This is the Morning Drive. So, as you can see, brand new format, trying to do new things. This is going to be my weekly rant slash podcast slash show. It's going to be on YouTube also. So, if you want to stare at me for an hour, basically going back and forth in my chair like this and dicking around, that's fine. Otherwise, if you're just listening to this, hopefully I've gotten it on all the places that it needs to be. But it is what it is. So, new format. Still going to be a review channel. Obviously, I'm not driving anymore. Every once in a while, you might get a episode of me actually driving. Just depends on the situation. But I promised everyone that I would do reviews, but I would still do the channel. So the channel will be a podcast slash YouTube channel, show, whatever. So I'll just talk about what's been going on and things like that. So as well, you probably don't know because I didn't upload it, because that's usually the case with everything that I do. I say that I'm going to do something and then I end up not doing it, uh, which I'm trying to get better at because, like I said, trying to get a better job. So I also need to stop saying "like I said" as much because I like to say "like I said." But like I said, been trying to get a job in SEO, which is search engine optimization. They require you to know a little bit about podcasting, copywriting, things of that nature. So I've decided to elevate the show for now. If I do get the job, it doesn't start until June 10th. So I figured, why not put my skills to use, do a little bit of copywriting, do stuff like that. So a lot of the reviews that you guys have already seen, I have been transferring over to a blog. I bought a webpage, themorningdrive.co. Go check those out if you'd like, just to kind of brush up on my copyright skills. So working on that. It's funny, copyright I initially thought was a copywriting like in music, and I'm familiar with that. So I just kind of laughed when I heard that it was career. I was like, copywriting, and why would you need money for that? Like, you just fill out a form and send it to the government and they do all the work for you. So it was kind of funny because I was that typical old man thing where you think something is one thing and it turns out being another thing. So I did that, and we're all human. If we don't have the Googles right in front of us, how are we supposed to know what something is? But I always thought they were spelling it wrong. I was like, why are they spelling it copyright with a WRITE? Like, I don't understand this. So when I finished my marketing degree and I started looking around for jobs, I realized that copywriting meant writing copy. And copy is basically like scripts and reviews and things like that. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So here I am, the big dummy. Not a big surprise that I'm a big dummy, but it is what it is. So decided to go ahead and brush up on those skills, turn this into a little bit more of a professional type deal. So that's why the layout's a little bit different. I'm using my old studio microphone here. I know you can't see it. Maybe I can lean it in. Using the old studio microphone there to record the show. So it is what it is. We finally, just other things to talk about, other things. Finally watched Shazam last night, which was a lot of fun. I was actually surprised. It was awesome watching it because we wanted to watch it like, gosh, 3 weeks ago. Me and the girlfriend wanted to go out and watch this show. And for whatever reason, I think it was like a time issue or something. We ended up watching something else. Gosh, what did we watch? We're trying to make Thursday night our date night because that's our rest day from the gym. So what did we watch? I forget, but we watched Shazam last night. It was actually really good. I was impressed by how good it was. I know it's funny. I watch a lot of movie review shows, and I watched a movie review where they were basically saying that the character Billy Batson and the person, Zachary Levi's character, when he turns into Shazam, they were saying that, oh, it didn't make any sense. They didn't seem like the same person. Like one person acted one way, the other person acted the other way. I would venture to say that you don't spend enough time with Billy Batson to really get a feel of who he is. You spend so much more time with Shazam that you don't really get that. So I didn't get that, but it was fun. There's some nice surprises along the way. I won't ruin it for you, even though that movie's like been out for a month. Like, spoilers, whatever. But it's a podcast, and I want you to listen to it and not turn it off. So it is what it is. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of great surprises there. A lot of fun things in the end. A lot of stingers post credit, like a mid credit scene. We didn't stay to see if there was one further after it because that's exhausting. And for DC, who cares? Like, who cares? They haven't gotten their crap together yet. Yeah, it's funny. You think of DC, and they have just this rich background of some of the greatest superheroes ever. And Marvel comes in and sneaks in under them 11 years ago and puts out a movie that I would have never thought in a million years would have worked with Iron Man. Like, I laughed. I was like, oh, Iron Man, like, this is not going to work. Like, I had no belief at all that it would work. And then Captain America was getting ready to come out, and I remember there was a guy who was a comic book nerd like me. We actually opened a studio together back in Baltimore, but he was like so excited for Captain America, and I was like, that movie's never going to work. Like, how are you going to do a Captain America movie in real time today? Because I think we all kind of knew that they were going to try to put all these together. And how are you going to do that in modern day time? Like, how are you going to bring Captain America to our time, knowing that he was fighting basically the Nazis? Like, how are you going to be able to tell that story? And I kind of laughed. I was like, it's impossible. Like, you can't do it. And I remember watching that movie, and I actually waited. I didn't watch that one in theaters. I watched Iron Man in theaters, and I didn't watch Captain America in theaters. I waited till it got to Blu-ray or whatever the format was back then. Well, I'm pretty sure it was Blu-ray even back then. Just fully surprised by how well it was. So we actually watched Avengers last week, the Friday it came out. Well, I mean, I guess it came out on Thursday, but we bought tickets same day, watched it on Friday at like and it wasn't even afternoon yet. It was like 11:45. I was actually surprised by how many commercials they showed. When I watched Infinity War, they had gotten it down, because I watched Infinity War in theaters maybe 4 times, and I think they got it down to about, one. I think it was one commercial. Can't remember what it was. I say commercial, trailer. They got it down to one trailer, but with the first time I watched it, they had 2. We watched Infinity War, and they must have shown 6 trailers before that thing started. And I was just I was looking at Lene, and I was just like, can you believe how many trailers they're showing? Like, this is a 3-hour movie, and they're showing a lot of trailers. Like, they're wasting a lot of real estate right now to show movies, because, the shorter you can make it and the shorter you can get people in and out of the theater, the easier it is to fill up more time slots during the day. So I was really kind of surprised that they went that route. But anyway, movie's great. It's been out for a week. I feel like I could sit here and spoil it, but once again, first episode of the actual podcast, I don't want to wreck the movie for you. I love that there's a ghetto bird flying over right now, and I can hear it, so I imagine you guys can hear it too. Don't live in the ghetto, for what it's worth. Live by a college, so maybe those kids are getting a little bit of trouble since it is graduation time. But overall, Avengers great. Got into a little bit of a discussion with some friends about what movies you should see beforehand. Without giving too much away, I would say that people are worried, do I need to see Captain Marvel? Do I need to see Ant-Man and the Wasp? And I would say no, you don't need to. If you want, you could just go to YouTube and see the post-credit scenes. The post-credit scenes are probably more pertinent to it than anything else, so I would watch those. And then movies to revisit if you wanted to beforehand, I would say all the Avengers movies, some of the Captain America movies, I was trying to break down the shortest possible list, and I got it down to about 5 or 6 movies you could watch. And I think if you watched the first Avengers, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Civil War, Iron Man, ooh, 2, and then Thor 2. Even though you don't want to watch it, I think everybody can universally say that they dislike that movie. It'd be good to watch beforehand. So, trying not to give anything away, those would be the best ones that I would say. And then obviously you'd want to watch Infinity War again right before you go into it, just to get that feeling. But all in all, great movie. We were both really impressed. I think one of the things that my girlfriend hates about going to the movies with me is that I'm able to call things. So like right before the movie started, I told her the 2 things that I absolutely knew had to happen with, of the big 3, let's say 2 out of the big 3. I told her, I was like, I just want to remind you that I said this and this about these 2 characters, and that's how it's going to inform. I was like, I don't have no idea how it's going to happen. I don't know how I have no idea how it's going to work. And they both came true. So she hates it when that happens. But I told her last night, it's actually funny that when you kind of have a feel for how storytelling is, you can spend a little bit more time looking at details. And I was catching like so many details in the movie because I wasn't as invested in paying attention to certain story arcs because I kind of knew how they were going to unfold. So it was kind of fun because I was picking up on all these Easter eggs. So I was watching like a Easter egg thing on YouTube. And after I got done, I thought to myself, I was like, there's only 2 things in there that I didn't catch. And it was like top 20 things you may have missed, because that's how people market things now, is by saying top 5 this list and top 3 list this. And, I'm going to be accused of that shortly too, because I know that brings clicks. So I will be partaking in a bit of that. Gosh, what else? I think, what else? I want to talk about the other movie that we watched. It was so unremarkable that I don't. Oh, that's what it was. We finally got around to watching Us. I gotta say, who is it? It's Key and Peele. It's Jordan Peele. No, is it Key? I don't know. One of those guys. Great storyteller, but the movie was just whatever. Like, I can see why it made so much money the first week because of so much hype, because Get Out was amazing. And then you go into this, expecting that. And I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying, who cares? One of those deals, like, I don't know if I really care about this anymore. So it was interesting. It was kind of funny because some friends of ours had watched it. We were supposed to go with them, but we just didn't. We couldn't find a good time to go at the same time because we had some stuff going on. We were actually packing to move up here. So me and the girlfriend are those type of people where once we get like into something, like we can't get out of it. Like if we start cleaning, we'll go crazy. Like I think it was 2 weeks ago, she started doing like lawn stuff because like she loves gardening and she loves just that aspect of life, which is funny to me because I feel like the guy was always. I think the stereotype is that men love the lawn and love to mess with the lawn and do stuff like that. I'm not one of those people. I could care less, but I'll go out there and help her because I'm not a dick. Well, I guess that's subjective, depending on who you've talked to, who knows me. But she could spend hours out there. She's just one of those people. She could spend hours out there, and I'm one of those people where if I get wrapped up in something, I'll spend hours on it. So like even this week, I was writing copy, and I spent the whole day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, not so much Wednesday because I did have my job interview. I spent the whole day Monday, Tuesday just writing copy and going over it, and then I published it. And even when it was published, I kind of it's kind of funny. I used to make fun of writers, and it's mostly because a lot of the writers online, we kind of touched on this earlier when I said that, people always have these little flashy headlines, a top 5 this, top 4 that, whatever. And then you go read their article, and I'm one of those people where grammar is just like, if you spell 4 or 5 things wrong in the first sentence, or the first paragraph, I'm out. Like, you've tapped me out. It's exhausting trying to get my brain to calm down and not want to hunt you down and find you like Liam Neeson. Like, it just drives me bananas. So it's funny because now that I'm writing copy, I'm publishing things. Like, I feel like they're right. I'll proofread them a couple of times. I'll read them out loud because that always helps with me. And then I'll go back and I'll see something that I didn't like. Now, luckily, it's not always grammar. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect. Every once in a while, especially, I feel like the way the internet is now, you read so much stuff that has such poor grammar that it rubs off on you. So sometimes you'll be sitting there and you'll be thinking to yourself, there, and there. There, and there. Which one am I using? So you'll spend a little extra time trying to figure out which one you were supposed to use because it just kind of dumbs you down. But I think it's funny because I've been writing copy lately, and now, like, I'm publishing stuff and then I'm touching it up. I'm like, does that make sense? Is what I said made sense? Or, oh, I forgot this little detail and adding it. So it's like I'm going through, and I know because I can read the clicks online, which I've been doing really well, and I'm surprised. And I'm reading the clicks online and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I could have said that better. So I'm actively changing this while people are reading it. So they're probably thinking to themselves, oh, that's spelled messed up, or that doesn't make any sense. And then maybe they go tell one of their friends and they come back and then they see it and they're like, oh, we fixed it. So I think that's interesting because, your friends are always going to be hypercritical of you. So I'm sure all of them right now are just like, what the fuck is he doing now? Like, this guy, a couple years back, was bombarding us with his horrible music. Then he went to school and we got this break from him, and now he's out of school and he's hitting us with all these reviews and just, what the hell is he doing? So I'd never tried to push the morning drive down any of my friends' throats. So where my music, I definitely did. I think my music pages had like 500 followers a piece. One of them I retired because I changed my stage name, and then the other one I just closed down because it's just weird getting hits on it now. So I imagine my friends are just sick of that. So I didn't push the morning drive. The morning drive has been out, gosh, 4 or 5 years now, I believe. And I think I have 24 followers on Facebook, which is, less than 5% of what I had on everything else. So it's funny. And even with the morning drive, like, I have 249 followers. It's like nothing to like really be impressed with. I had my interview, and I actually made a joke about it. I told the lady, I said, yeah, I've been working on writing copy. I've been working on bringing my YouTube page back together, my new YouTube channel. And I saw this look on her face, and I was like, oh, trust me, I understand. Everybody in our day and age has a YouTube page now. I was like, I have no belief that I'm going to be some kind of YouTube superstar. I'm just doing it so that I have content, because content is king in SEO. In search engine optimization, content is king. So the more content that I can bring and the more eyes I can bring to the site in any means, that's what's going to do it for me. So I kind of had this epiphany where I was like, well, I have all these skills. I know a little bit about music. I know a little bit about sound design. I know a little bit about this. I know a little bit about that. People have made fun of me on my whole life because I'm one of those people that started a degree and then never finished it. So I have a lot of associate's degrees, like an insane amount. Well, I don't know if it's an insane amount. I have 6. I got 3 from the military. I got 3 after leaving the military. I would start majors and then not like them and then quit. So like I remember I wanted to be a psychologist and I got halfway through that and I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to be a philosopher, and then I do that, and then I want to be an English major. So I just kind of went like through all those things, and I was just like, well, I have this broad base of experience with a little bit of everything. Why not use it for the thing that I actually want to do? So I've always been drawn to helping people with reviews. People always ask me about shoes. Before that, people would always ask me about music and movies. And that's what this is for. So I figured I will spend a little bit more time writing out reviews, getting my thoughts nice and clear, putting them together, and then doing the show. So basically, I'm writing copy for the show. I do the show, and then I'm all set. Whereas before, I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants. Now, granted, I'm still going to do that. That's what this is. That's basically the archetype of a podcast, is just coming in and flying by the seat of your pants and just talking about things that are going on. So kind of just taking that angle with it. I know you're saying, well, some podcasts aren't like that. Like some of them, we know exactly what they're going to be talking about. And I would say that the most successful ones are the ones that you don't know what the person's going to talk about. So once again, it is what it is. So for any of the new people following me, that's basically what this show is about. I will number them differently. I will advertise them differently on the channel, but it's just going to be a weekly thing. I might try to Bill Burr it and do it twice a week if there's stuff that I want to talk about. I might write a little bit of copy. I was thinking of doing, at least talking about like the news and stuff like that, and maybe Game of Thrones. But it's one of those things where I want the podcast to not have spoilers in it for any shows. Like I don't want to ruin a show for you, but granted, if it's something that's been out for like a couple of years, go fuck yourself. I'm gonna talk about it. Like the statute of limitations is over for something that's 5-10 years old. Like me and Lene were watching Unbreakable, and she knows how it ends up. I'm sorry, I got like this itchy thing in my nose. She knows how it ends up. She just didn't know how it got there. So she watched it for the first time because I want to watch Glass. And she can't watch Glass yet because she hasn't seen Unbreakable and she hasn't seen Split yet. So we watched Unbreakable. She kind of knew where it was going to go just because she'd heard spoilers. That's just the nature of the game. Like when people are talking about a movie like Split, the spoilers just naturally kind of leak out because it's like, oh yeah, well, this happened because of this. I will say this though, before anybody knew that it was there's been a couple of these moments for me, but before anybody knew that it was a sequel to Unbreakable, there's a part in Split where the music from Unbreakable plays. And I had seen Unbreakable because I was like everybody else, an M. Night Shyamalan, fan, where he got me on Sixth Sense, and I loved Unbreakable, and I thought those were the two best movies he's ever made. And that was when I was younger, and I would watch movies over and over again. So I remember having the DVD of that movie and watching it more than once, so I knew the music. So watching Split, I hear the music, and I remember saying audibly out loud, because this is the kind of a-hole I am, I went, oh, go fuck yourself. Because I was just like, oh no, is it what I think it is? So they play the music first, then they go in the diner, and everything in the diner happens, and you're just like, all right, I get it. So that was one moment. I know the other moment that I said that out loud and kind of had everybody look at me in the movie theater. And I felt bad. I actually felt bad for this one, is I went to go watch Solo. And there's a point in Solo. I don't know what it is about movies these days. Whenever they do like a prequel, or anything like that, they have to explain something from the main canon of the story. It's like, why are you doing this? And they explained why his name was Solo. And I audibly said the same thing. I went, oh, go fuck yourself. And there's a kid right next to me. I could see the father's head pop over, and I was just like, oh, sorry. Like I didn't mean it. I meant it 100%, because go F yourself. But as much as we didn't like that movie, I can tell you that kid loved it. Like he sat there the entire time and his eyes were big as saucers and he's just enjoying it and I'm sitting there just kind of like uncomfortable in my seat. Like, do I really need to know these things about Han Solo? It's just a wasted opportunity. Like I can see why Disney is pumping the brakes a little bit on the Star Wars franchise because they were like kids who just fucking recently learned how to fuck. Like they just had to like stick their fingers and everything and put their mouth on everything and then they just ruined it. So I don't know why they went the route that they did, but it is what it is, man. I don't know. So with movies, that's part of the show. I'll talk about them because I love them. You know, I've been watching movies my whole life. I feel like that's not an impressive thing to say because everybody's been watching movies their whole life. But I do enjoy storytelling, and it's funny when you see storytelling beats and you see certain things happen and you already know what's going to happen. It actually feels good for me. I like that. I did notice something about myself though. I gotta tell you guys, go watch Black Summer on Netflix. It's nothing you haven't seen before when it comes to that whole zombie genre, but I like the storytelling. And what I've noticed about myself is that when it comes to that serialized TV, that's the kind of storytelling that I can't telegraph. Like it doesn't seem telegraphed to me. Like I can't really pinpoint what's going on. And I think part of that is because a lot of these shows that are built for TV, not necessarily Netflix all the time. I imagine they knew where they were going, but like The Walking Dead is a great example of they kind of fly by the seat of their pants sometimes because they want to keep things a secret. So when you kind of are working fluidly, you have this chance to surprise people, and that's what I got from Black Summer is I got that surprise because you're not expecting things around every corner. So if you're into the genre, if you like to be scared, or if you're just looking for something to like kill a few hours on Netflix, I think it's one of those 10 episode long things. Unfortunately, the episodes are pretty short. They're 20 minutes long, I believe. I think the first couple were like 40, but as it progressed, it ended up being shorter. Jamie Presley's in it. I hope I got that name right. I think Jamie King is the Asian one and Jamie Presley is the blonde one. I did that last night too, watching Shazam. I was like, Megan Fox. And then I was like, no, that's Megan Good. Like my brain, not good with the last names of people. And then the polar opposite of how those people look too. Like one's Asian, one's white, one's black, one's white. Like just not good with names. But she is amazing in it. The only thing that I tell my friends, and this isn't a spoiler, is that you will not contain yourself when it comes to screaming at the television, close the fucking door. It was unbelievable how many times, and like I said, this doesn't spoil the show, but how many times they're getting chased by somebody, like a zombie, and it's just like, holy crap, dude. Like, holy crap. Like, why aren't you closing the door? Like, it's clear that they don't know how to close the damn door. And they're running around these buildings where they're going through door after door after door. And you're just blown away by the fact that they can't close a damn door behind them. I don't know. It is what it is. But apparently it's greenlit for a second season, which is exciting. I do like the Netflix. I do like the Netflix model of putting out something, seeing how people feel about it, and then progressing on with another one. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work. I feel like another good one that a lot of people know about is The Haunting at Hill House. Is that how you say it? I always want to say Haunted Hill, the house on Haunted Hill, but I think that's a different thing, or maybe it's the same thing, just written a different way. Who knows? They greenlit that for a second season, and if you watch the first one, you're like, I don't get it. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm not saying that doesn't work yet. Just the way I feel about it, I'm like, how could you possibly get that to work after the first season? They've kind of explained it a little bit online. Don't want to ruin that for you. Once you watched it, go down that rabbit hole, but it is what it is. But yeah, just randomly kind of going through Netflix and finding stuff like that is enjoyable, though. Came across it. I actually started watching an episode, and I thought to myself, oh, this might actually be really good. I'm going to have to watch this over with Lene, because I'm not. I get enjoyment out of watching something with somebody. I'm not. I feel like a lot of people in relationships, not trying to slam anybody, I'm just saying a lot of times in people in relationships, you always see those memes or you see those little stories where people are like, yeah, I watched my dad watch that episode, and then mom came home and I watched him pretend like he didn't watch it again, even though I know that mom watched it at work because she was texting me about it. So they both watched this episode together again, thinking the other one hadn't watched it. I don't play that game. If I see something and I say to myself, oh, Lene might like this, I turn it off. I turn it off and I just say, hey, let me wait for her. And then I'll let her watch an episode. I stop and say, what'd you think? If she doesn't like it, cool. When she's doing something else, now I have something to watch for myself. If she enjoys it, then I'm like, cool, we can enjoy this together. So to me, it works out either way. I guess I'm just a lot more agreeable in relationships, maybe not with friends and stuff, but definitely with relationships, a lot more agreeable, especially since she's the breadwinner. I mean, she's the one who works. I'm the one who just sits around making YouTube videos all day and writing copy and messing around with my laptop. So good thing I spent $1,400 on a brand new laptop a couple of years ago that I've barely used at all, and now it's being used a lot. So kind of worked out. Graduate. It's funny, you go to college and you feel like you need a brand new laptop. I feel like a lot of kids use it as an excuse to have their parents buy them a brand new MacBook Pro or something, and you'll see these kids be real snooty. I went to college with mostly really young millennials and like a lot of Generation Z. So it's funny because they love their Apple toys, and I'm sitting over there with my PC Razor, and they're just kind of like, oh, what's that fake MacBook that you have? Because my Razor has the backlit display on the back, and it's really skinny and it's got a nice form factor, and they're just like, oh, it's a fake MacBook. And it's like, yeah, but when it gets down to it, ask any programmer what they're going to be programming on, and it's probably going to be a PC running Linux. But I don't know anything about that stuff. I leave that to the girlfriend. But as far as shows with her go, bring it back in. As far as shows with her go, I like to enjoy them with her. It's just good for the relationship. Something you can enjoy together. Something you can talk about later on. We don't really talk about movies right after we watch them. I always want to. She's one of those people that has to kind of digest it a little bit more. So we won't talk about the movie until like 2 days later with her. But she's always nice. She lets me yammer about it for like an hour after we've watched it. She's really patient. I talk a lot, so that's why the show is good. Maybe I can get some of this energy out and have something to say to somebody else. But Netflix, I love finding a new show. I think that's all of our thing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when Disney Plus comes into full swing. It's going to be really interesting because they're going to take a lot of shows away. They're already starting new shows on Hulu because they own like 66% of Hulu now. So I think what they're going to do, and this is just speculation, I don't know this for sure. I imagine a lot more of their edgier shows will end up on Hulu, and then a lot more of their PG-13 shows are going to end up on the Disney Plus. That just makes the most sense. Maybe they'll buy out Hulu completely and just rebrand it again. You never know. Disney's got the money. They're just going to throw it at everybody. 10 years from now, they'll probably own everything, The only thing they don't own... Gosh, they don't own all of Hulk. That's why there's no... Oh, excuse me. That's why there's no standalone Hulk movie. Because Universal owns the rights to the standalones, which is unfortunate for Universal because they don't sell anything. I actually found out that they don't sell anything by following Kevin Smith, because Kevin Smith wrote a treatment for a part 2 of Mallrats, and he had everyone on board. Like Rooker was on board. I'm sure Affleck would have fell in line sooner or later. Apparently, he wants to be friends with Kevin Smith again, so who knows what'll come of that. That'll be nice if he pops up in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. But this is how I found out about the whole Universal thing. Was Kevin Smith wanted to do Mallrats 2, and the studio basically told him, no, like, unless you come do it here, you can't do it, and we don't want that movie. And he was like, well, I'll buy it. And he was like, yeah, we don't sell the things that we own. So Universal does not sell their properties once they own them. So anything that's on Universal, chances of them popping up anywhere else are nil. Like, it just won't happen because that's the way they are. If they own something, they keep it. So I feel like that's what's going on with Hulk. And Disney will just have to play the waiting game with them. Like, sooner or later, what movies does Universal really have? And I know, off the top of my head, I can't think of a whole lot of properties, but it's just time. Sooner or later, time, they're gonna wear them down. I know Universal owns a lot of like music properties and stuff like that. Gosh, I'm usually better with this. I usually know a lot about companies, and I'm sorry I can't off the top of my head remember a bunch of their stuff. Sony, ever since that leak that happened several years back, I think that was part of the reason why they opted to go ahead and share Spider-Man with Marvel and Disney. So once again, just a matter of time. I feel like in 15, 20 years, Disney's going to own all of them. As soon as they get into financial, trouble, Disney is just going to be waiting like a shark in the water, like, give me that blood, son, give me that blood. So it is what it is. It's going to be unfortunate, I think, if it ends up going that way. There was like 6 major studios in Hollywood. I think now there's 5. Every year it just seems like there's less and less major studios. Actually got into an argument with one of my professors. Still got an A in his class. Got into an argument with him because we were talking about how, when a company, there's like smaller movies make a lot of money, and that Disney, he basically was on board with the thought that Disney couldn't possibly do everything because they're more interested in tentpole movies. And I was like, no, that's not true. I was like, that's what's the focus. The focus of what Disney does is tentpole movies. But buying something like Fox opens up the door to all those smaller movies that they may not have. I was like, you forget that Disney owns a publishing house that's Buena Vista. It's funny because I know all this stuff off the top of my head, and you just kind of look around and you see people going, how the fuck does he know this? And you can see people actively searching it to see if what I say is right, and they're just kind of going, oh crap, the kid's right. And first of all, I'm not a kid, old guy. But I was kind of telling them, I was like, well, first of all, Disney owns Buena Vista. Buena Vista is the publisher for Miramax. Miramax has a ton of rated R movies, because he was basically saying, well, they can't do rated R movies. And I was like, well, they do. They have them under their umbrella. They're just not obvious that they're Disney. So I just kind of backed off because he's my instructor, and I wanted to keep that A that I was earning in his class. I didn't want him to, be upset, but it's one of those deals where people think that a big company like Disney doesn't have their fingers in everything, and they do. I will say the one thing, well, I'm wrong about everything sooner or later, but one of the things that I was wrong about is that one of my friends had basically said that if Deadpool went to Disney, there's no way they would keep from keeping it rated R. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like if it goes to Disney specifically, they'll kill it. It doesn't look like that's what's going on right now, and still, I would say time is going to tell them that, but I think the route that Disney is going right now is that they're going to release R-rated movies. They're just going to do it under a different branding. And I think they're going to take the opportunity to use the Fox branding for that. So we'll see. Once again, we will see what Disney does. Everything's kind of up in the air now. For those of you who have watched Endgame, it's like the future of the MCU is I don't know at stake, but we just don't know what the future is. Like we assume we're going to see another Doctor Strange movie. We assume that we're going to see another Black Panther because Ryan Coogler signed on. We assume all these things, but you know what they say about assuming. So we'll just have to wait and see when it comes down to it. I'm excited. Like growing up as a comic book nerd, and you know a closeted one at that, because it wasn't cool when I was growing up to tell anybody that you had comics. And growing up as that nerd, seeing these things kind of come to life, even properties that I weren't familiar, I was not familiar with, like Shazam, because I wasn't a Shazam fan. I actually had to look up the post credit scene because I didn't understand it at all. Lene looks over at me, kind of expecting me to be like, to know who that was, and she's like, "Who was that?" And I was like, "I got to be honest, I don't know. It wasn't my thing. Like I loved DC Comics when I was a kid, but I pretty much stuck with Batman. Like that was the guy in DC for me. So I didn't really know. So when she asked me that, I kind of felt bad. I was like, you know, some things I don't know. You can't be expected to know all that stuff. Some of, you know, I feel like if I would have stayed in that longer, if I didn't have that pressure to kind of get out of that phase, I probably would have been the typical comic book nerd with, you know, my whole back wall here would be covered in boxes of comic books. I think I had like one box of comics left back at the house, and I think some of them got water damaged, so it's unfortunate. It is what it is. They're just things to me now. If I really need to, I'll just go on Amazon and pop on. I had a subscription to one of those comic book things on. I think it was a reader on. Gosh, what was it? I think it was on Amazon. I had one of those readers, and I was kind of catching up and rereading some comics, and that was fun for a while. But it's hard. It's really hard to invest now as an adult and try to catch up on comic books. And we're living in this golden age where we don't have to. That's why I kind of get upset with people who get mad that it doesn't follow the source material. Who cares? Like the comics don't even follow the source material half the time. Like they will go back and whoever the writer is, they will revise something. You know, there's like 6 or 7 different versions of Captain Marvel because everybody has their own take of how that started. You know, even in the original days of the DC, you know, DC Comics, like Green Lantern, that mantle has been held by so many people. I remember there was a friend of mine in Baltimore that was pissed that they had cast Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern because of like, Green Lantern's a black guy. And I'm like, no, he's a white dude. Like he's a black guy on the television show, but not originally, not in the silver era of comic books. He wasn't. You know, that wouldn't even make sense for back then for him to be, you know, African American. And he was just like, really? And I was like, yeah, look it up. Like it's just one of those things. Now, I will say this, that's his Green Lantern, because that show was amazing. Like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, for my money, man, you can't find better cartoons. I remember, gosh, I think that was around the time I was in the military. We would come back from our day during the week, and there was a group of us that would branch off and we would go watch Dragon Ball Z. And I would watch it every once in a while. I wasn't really into it. And there was a group of us who would go branch off and go watch Justice League Unlimited. And I own the whole thing now, but it was just fun, man. It was just so good. The Batman Beyond story that's in there, just amazing. It rolls right into the Return of the Joker movie. Just so much fun. So for me, that's one of my favorite iterations of Batman is the Batman Beyond Batman. So I always see these reboot possibilities. We've seen Batman so many times. And I think Kevin Smith or somebody on one of Kevin Smith's shows was, I think it might have been Mark Bernardin, said that wouldn't it be great if Michael Keaton came back and they did Batman Beyond with a younger actor. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like as soon as they said it, I was on board. I was like, dude, that's a great idea, because Batman Beyond was just one of my favorite things. So everybody has their own kind of superhero, and when people say things aren't going to work, it's like, can they work? Or when people say, oh, uh, you know, that's, well, how do I put it? When people get mad about it not following that source material, like when people get upset about it not following the source material, it's like, well, yeah, it doesn't follow that source material, but are you telling a brand new story? Are you telling something that's fun and interesting and different? Because, Batman 1989, that was a different story. We won't talk about any of the other Batman movies. The Christopher Nolan trilogy, that was a different take on a lot of things that happened. Zack Snyder, gosh, people being so upset about what he did. It's his take. It's funny how people were so mad at Zack Snyder for doing what he did with Batman, and now it seems like those exact same people are in this outcry to get the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. It's like pick a lane and stay in it. People would be mad about anything. They will just get mad about anything. Sonic the Hedgehog. I watched. This is a great example too. Sonic the Hedgehog. That stupid trailer came out like 2 days ago, and I saw it, and I saw Jim Carrey in it, and that was where my problem was. I was like, oh, Jim Carrey. I was like, here we go. I was like, well, good for you for making a comeback. I've never been a huge Jim Carrey fan. There's like 2 Jim Carrey movies that I like, and even then, he's just too much for me. Like the guy is just way too much. He's that guy at the party that's trying too hard. That's just my opinion. And people get so mad at me when I say, like, oh, how can you not love Jim Carrey? I'm like, easy. I just don't. But that's the reason why I was turned off by the movie. I watched the trailer and I was just like, oh, this is corny. Like I said, I feel like I've watched so many movies that I have a feel for when something's going to be good. And as a movie, it doesn't look good. So many people were complaining about Sonic the Hedgehog, a fictional character, not looking like Sonic the Hedgehog. I get it. The character didn't look like him. That wasn't the first thing that popped in my head, though, when I saw it. I was just like, oh, this is going to be corny as shit. That's all I thought. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a corny movie. Everybody was just this outcry. I had a friend write on my page because I was making fun of it. I was making fun of Jim Carrey, actually. I said something to the effect of, I'm glad Jim Carrey's working again, or something like that. He was like, I'm so upset. That whole ruined my childhood thing. Did it really? Like, I'm a Transformers fan. I think you could see the, point that way. Point that way. You can see the poster on my wall. I'm a fan of the original movie. Going back, looking at the TV show, it's not how I remembered. I think for those of you who think fondly about something, go revisit it and see if it was really as good as you remember. But the point is that it brought you joy. Transformers brought me so much joy as a kid, and that movie was so good. Optimus Prime dying. Spoiler alert! Optimus Prime dying in that movie, it crushed me. It absolutely crushed me. I cried in the movie theater. I was that kid. So I get it, loving something, but be a little honest with yourself. Like, did it wreck your childhood? Like, your childhood, you've had it already. You had your childhood. I remember the black and white Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic books. And then I remember when the movie came out. And the movie was a far cry from the Ninja Turtles. Everybody knows Leonardo is the leader of the group. And in the song, it says that Raphael is the leader of the group. So things are going to not fall the way that you want them to fall, right? Things aren't always going to be the same. And you just have to deal with it. Like, at least you got to see it. I hate Michael Bay's Transformer movies, specifically the second one on. The first one I loved because I got to see all of those things that I wanted to see on the big screen. And it was amazing. And I got to admit, when the second one came out, I was like, Michael Bay ruined my childhood. I was so upset. And then I thought about what I was saying, and I was just like, did he really? Like, I got to enjoy something. And like, yeah, the storytelling in the second movie, it happened during the strike. It happened during the Writers Guild strike, and all this nonsense happened, and it's just like, what do you do? Because I remember thinking to myself, I think G.I. Joe came out around the same time. And I remember thinking that half of G.I. Joe was good and half of Transformers was good. I think it's the first half of Transformers is good, and it's the second half of G.I. Joe that's good. And I thought to myself, they should take the first half of this movie and put the second half of this movie on it, and you have a decent movie. And I don't know. I thought so, and that's what I thought. So like these two things, these two properties from my childhood were reimagined, and it's like, why be mad about it? It's like, somebody's gonna get it right, and that happened. Like we got the Bumblebee movie. They still took some liberties, but they did some things right. Because like if you watch that opening sequence of Bumblebee, if the 12-year-old kid inside of you doesn't just scream in joy when you see the first few minutes of that movie and that opening scene, I don't know what to tell you. So sooner or later somebody does it right. Did somebody ruin your childhood? They just made you mad for a day. They made you mad for a day. You went online, you said something bad about it, and you got over it. Like, who cares? Who really cares? It happened. It happened. So just go into things. I think I'm better at going into things now than I've ever been before, of saying, okay, this is what this thing is. This is what it meant to me, and this is the direction that they're going with it. You'd be surprised how many people, even though Deadpool is so much fun, how many like original Deadpool fans that I know don't like it because Wade Wilson, quote unquote, wouldn't act that way in this situation, or he wouldn't do that in this situation. Who cares? Like, it's somebody else's take. Like, could be worse. It could be the first version of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool that we got with no mouth and swords coming out of his arms. Like, you got something better because you were patient and you waited, and you have to appreciate them taking chances. I didn't like the Michael Bay produced version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I had fun watching it. I was like, oh, this is kind of new. And, they looked weird. They were strange. And it's funny how snobbish we get. Because if you watch the original Ninja Turtles movies with them in costumes, that's not believable either. It's one of the last things, I think it's one of those last things that Jim Henson did before he passed away, where he created those costumes. And it's like, this is magic happening before your eyes. And I remember people being like, oh, the turtles look fake. And it's like, they're turtles. Like, they're turtles, and our technology isn't there yet. Like, what are you really being mad about right now? So people were mad back then, but then you look now and people are like, oh, I hope it's like the original Ninja Turtle movies, or I hope it's like the limited run of cartoons that they had back in the day. Like, ever since Nickelodeon got it, it's gotten this, that, and this and that. And people just get upset, and people, it's just funny. Just take it for what it is. There's plenty of entertainment out there. There's so much entertainment available at our fingertips right now that it's insane. I think I was going to get to a point earlier about the Netflix shows that sometimes I need something light. I just need something a little bit lighter, or sometimes I need something that's different, because me and the girlfriend, we started watching Breaking Bad again. So we started watching Breaking Bad again, and we're all the way down to the last season, and I can't watch it anymore. It's just too heavy for me. It's like I need a break from it. Even though I love that series so much, it's one of the greatest like television series of all time. Sometimes you just need a break, and like it is what it is. You just kind of move on. I like to tell my friends that I'm one of those people that there's very few shows that after 4 seasons I can still watch. Like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've talked about it on this show before. For those of you who new to the show, go look for it. I think I used to tag everything with things that I talked about. I'll try to keep doing that. I used to talk about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia as one of those things where by the time the 4th season hit, I was over it. Same thing with Workaholics. By the time Workaholics hit that 4th season, excuse the dog. I think the mailman's here. She's gonna go nuts. By the time that 4th season hit of Workaholics, I was done. I was just cashed out. I think the thing that those two have in common, it's kind of funny because I think one of the writers of Workaholics actually said that they tried to model. Somebody yelling at my dog? That's going to be different if somebody's yelling at the dog. I might have to pause this for a second. Let me pause it. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm back. So, yeah, exactly what I thought it was. The dog doesn't like the mailman. Shocker. That old chestnut. Anyway, I'm back. So, I guess we were talking about movies. I knew I was going to lose my train of thought. I actually sat here for a couple of minutes trying to remember exactly what I was talking about. Unfortunately, there's no way to listen to the last kind of couple minutes that I was talking. We're approaching the hour mark anyway, so I guess it's time to wrap it up. But when it comes to just movies in general, I don't see why people get upset about certain things. Like I do to an extent, and then I just kind of get over it. I did a couple of videos on The Last Jedi because I enjoyed it. I was one of those few people that enjoyed that movie, and I found it interesting that people have this feeling that they own something. That's, to an extent, that's how I felt about Transformers when the second movie came out. I was like, you took this thing that I loved and just changed it. And it's unfortunate, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, whether it be Sonic the Hedgehog, like all of these things kind of have a way. Geez, trucks are so loud. All of these things just kind of have their own way of fleshing itself out and getting better. And the things that don't have a chance at it won't come back. I kind of made a joke to my friend about the Sonic thing, and I said, well, they tried a Mario movie once and it didn't work. And he's like, whoa, well, Illumination's trying to make another one. So it's like, oh, let's see how that goes. We'll find out. So I think with anything else, I know that John Campea, he does a show that I really enjoy. He likes to say that film is subjective, and I agree. I agree. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I remember and I'll close with this. I remember I was in Baltimore, and I've never been a huge fan of the Fast and the Furious series. Like, I enjoyed the first one for obvious reasons. It was the first of its kind, and it jumped the shark, man. Like, it got weird in the second one. Vin Diesel wasn't there. It got weird. They added Tyrese. The third one had like nobody in it until the very end. It had Vin Diesel pops up for a second. Spoiler alert. Although I did like the third one, it was fun. It was a different take. So when Justin Lin kind of got back to doing them again, which is really odd for somebody to do one that a lot of people didn't like and then end up coming back and then doing a bunch that people really love. It was kind of strange, but I remember that fifth movie came out, and I remember watching it in theaters with someone. I don't know who I was hanging around with back then, and thinking to myself, wow, they nailed it. Like, they finally turned this into something special. Because I remember watching 4, because they were like getting the group back together. They got everybody back together, and it was okay. But watching 5, I was just like, holy cow, they've done something. And I remember I was at a bar in Baltimore. I can remember 2 dudes wanted to fight me over the fact that I said the movie was good. And I explained to them why. I said, because it's not the same movie anymore. They've taken it and they've changed it. They've changed it into this kind of heist deal. They've turned them into the good guys. They've done a lot here to make it a lot of fun. They added The Rock, which you add The Rock to anything and it just does well. And I remember winning these guys over, keeping myself from getting my ass kicked and jumped by 2 dudes, because I could tell that one wanted to blindside me with a punch, and talking them down off of this ledge and actually convincing them to go watch the movie. And it was maybe like 2 weeks later, I ran into the kid who wanted to blindside me. Luckily, I didn't run face first into his fist. But he came up to me. He's like, hey, I've been looking for you. And I was like, oh, gosh, that's never a good thing to hear. And he's like, no, I watched Fast 5. And he's like, you're right. It's totally better than I thought it was going to be. He's like, I actually went and watched 4 because I had never watched 4. And I enjoyed them. He's like, I enjoyed it. So it was kind of funny It's the how things will stick in your head as being awful, and then somebody will take that material, change it, do something special with it, and then get people interested again. Now, whether or not they can do that with Hobbs and Shaw, I know I showed my girlfriend Hobbs and Shaw, and she looked at it and she was like, I am not watching that shit. It looks like trash. Film is subjective, right? So just sometimes movies, they're there for our entertainment. And sometimes we want to be able to just flip that switch in our brain and turn it off and watch something stupid. Or sometimes we want to be challenged and learn something new. All things in life, really, it's what you take out of it. I'm trying to be better about dismissing things and saying that they suck. I always try to ask people what they thought. Like a friend of mine, I know I said I was gonna close on Fast and Furious. Maybe it's better to close on Avengers Endgame with no spoilers, since it's the end of the show. Endgame kind of fits. He came to me and privately messaged me and asked me what I thought of Avengers because he didn't like it. He didn't like Endgame, which is mind blowing because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And he's like, the reason why I'm talking to you is because I know you won't be mad. He's like, I know you'll hear me out and you'll fill in the blanks where I didn't have the blanks and kind of have an intelligent discussion. And that's what I think is important. Sometimes I'll be out drinking and it's hard because you can't walk away. I feel like in person, when I'm with my friends and we've been drinking, it's hard to not have a hard opinion and be able to pull back. Luckily, when you have a conversation with a friend online, not with people online, because that's impossible too. But if you have a conversation with a friend online, you get a chance to kind of think about it, and then you get to type it out and think about it, and then you get a chance before you hit enter to say what you want to say. So I feel like that's why a lot of my friends will approach me about those questions. And then you just have people, like I have a friend in our group chat. What's up, AJ, if you're listening? He's one of those people that's just confrontational. Like, it doesn't matter. And he's just that age because he's younger than most of us. And he's just at that age where he just wants to say something controversial and something, that's going to make everybody mad. And it's going to be opposite of what you think, just to be, a contrarian. That's what he wants to do. And I get it. I used to be that guy. I used to be the one that had to say something contrary to what everybody else had to say. And sometimes I still do that. Mostly when I do it now, it's to be funny because I like getting a rise out of people. Like, I was messing with somebody else. I was messing with somebody online just yesterday. I called, he said something about millennials, and I said, oh, millennials, they just love to fucking hate on millennials because they don't understand that they're probably in that age group. And it just started this firestorm. And I'm just sitting there reading the comments and laughing. And I would do one word answers and, just to be contrary, just to mess around because sometimes we want to watch the world burn and we want to have fun. So, sometimes it's context also. So I understand both sides. But when it comes to like hard opinions where people take these hard stances like, oh, you ruined my childhood, or oh, there's this and oh, there's that, just give things a chance. And really, if you don't like it, you'll find something that you like, because there's so much content out there today anyway. So that's all I got for you guys. As always, for the OGs, you know that you can follow me on the snaps, the tweets, and the grams. That's at Damian J, DAMIANJAY. If you have anything you want to say, please drop it in the comments below. This is it's going to be a podcast. You obviously can't drop comments below here. But once again, you can follow me on any of those pages. Maybe drop me a line, say, hey, you're doing good. Hey, you suck, whatever. It is what it is. You can follow me on my new webpage. That's where all of my written reviews will be. That's themorningdrive.co. It's not .com because that cost $3,000. .co is a lot shorter. Hopefully that'll be easier for you to type in anyway. So good luck to the guy who's selling that website for $3,000. I like that he had payment plan for it too. It was like, oh, you can pay in 12 monthly installments. I'm like, pass. But it is what it is. So anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Who knows where the channel will go maybe if I get this job, yeah, maybe I won't be able to do it as much. I'm gonna try to make that commitment to do do an episode for you guys once a week. Keep it at about an hour long. Um, if I can do it twice, I'll do it twice. If not, it is what it is. But that's all I got for you. Thanks for riding with me as always. And what drives you?